All right, now we'll work on our main quiz page UI. So let's go, but before that we'll have all these API endpoints in our UI project in Refit client. So we'll go to web APIs. Here we have this iStudent quiz API, and here we'll start adding all those. So what we'll do, we'll have methods with the same signatures what we have in our student quiz service. Let's copy this first one, start quiz async, add it here. Second one would be this one, get next question async. Then next, this submit quiz async. After that, exit quiz async. And then the last one, complete quiz async or auto submit. Not complete, auto submit, yeah. All right. Now the student ID parameter, the second parameter, we don't need this parameter explicitly here because it will be provided by the JWT token automatically on the API side from API endpoint. So we don't need to pass it from here. All right. So looks like we are good. We are missing one method. The response, this one. Save question response async. So let's get this one as well. And from here also we'll remove this student ID. Save everything. Cool. Now we'll start adding the URL routes for this. So first start quiz async. So if we go to our API endpoint, the start quiz one, this one, it has this API/student, and this is post. This is post, right? Map post. So API/student/quiz, and after this slash quiz ID and start. Now this refit post attribute, this does not have these route constraints, so we can't have this like this here, so we'll remove it. And now this is the complete URL. Here we have student ID, we don't need this. Cool. Then next one, get next question async. So this is the last part of this student quiz ID. Let's copy this post attribute, and this is going to be get. So instead of post, we'll have this get. Then API student quiz, after quiz we are going to have slash student quiz ID, removing that route constraint. Then next question. After that we have this save response. This is going to be post. So let's duplicate one of the above, and here we'll say API student quiz, and after quiz student quiz ID and save response. Now let's copy this one and add it to all. Then we'll add the actual URL. Okay, so first one was submit. We have just submit. So this is the submit one. We have after student quiz ID, we have submit. Then we have auto submit. So auto submit. No, that auto submit is here. And then we have this exit. This exit. With this, our Refit client is ready. Now we can use these all these endpoints. Save everything. Cool. Now we'll go back to our pages. First one, we'll go to pages and student home. So from here, when we are clicking on this start quiz, this method. Here we are saying that quiz state dot set quiz, and then we are directly navigating to this one. Before navigating to this one, maybe we should we should send an API request to start quiz endpoint. So for that, we will change this method to be private async task start quiz async. Then let's change this method name in here on our modal. We'll have the start quiz async, save it, and then we'll set it, or maybe we'll set it later when we are just redirecting. First thing we'll do, we'll have app state dot show loader. We'll show a loading, let's say preparing the quiz, something like this. After that, we will send that API request. So we'll say student quiz API dot start quiz async, and it gives us quiz API response of int. In this, we need to provide underscore starting quiz dot id as a parameter. It returns us quiz API response of type int. This is going to be response. Now if this is true, or maybe we should have this inside try catch. Inside try and catch, we'll display error. Right now let it through. We'll work on showing some alert, maybe making alert component, then we'll have all these catches to use that. And in finally block, we'll say app state dot hide loader. In here, after getting the response, we'll check if response dot is success, if this is false. We should say show error alert, and then just return from here. Okay, if that is not the case, we will be here, and then we can say int student quiz id. This would be this response dot data. This is the student quiz id. So now we will store this student quiz id as well in this quiz state. So let's go to quiz state. In here, when we are setting the quiz, or let's say instead of set quiz, let's say start quiz, we'll name it this. And here we will have one more property. We'll say public int student quiz id. This also is going to be private set, and here we'll provide it int student quiz id, and then we'll simply use value tuple to set both of these values in single line only. We'll say quiz comma student quiz id equals this quiz comma student quiz id, and now we are good. Now if we come here when we are starting the quiz, so quiz state dot instead of set quiz, it should be start quiz with these two parameters. One is this, then second one is student quiz id, and then we'll navigate to student quiz page. Save everything. Now we should be good. Okay, cool. Now we need to create this page, student quiz, that we already created. We added this thing, we injected our quiz state, and here we are checking if this is null, or here we can say quiz state dot student quiz id is equals 0. So if there is either one of these true, that quiz is null or student quiz id is 0, that means we didn't set it properly, or this is not set yet. So we'll simply return, we will not do anything. Now if that's not the case, then what we will do, first thing on this component, we need a single question display, right? So we need the question. So quiz is already started, that means we started the quiz, but we didn't add any we didn't show any question yet. So here we need to fetch the first question when we are initializing this. So here we'll say override on initialized async method. We can have this first check inside this only if we want to, on initialize async. After this we will get the first question. So we'll say var, I don't know what is the return type of that, but let's say var r equals await, and we need our student quiz API here. So I student quiz API, we'll say student quiz API, and on this we'll say student quiz API dot get next question for quiz async. We need to provide student quiz ID as a parameter to this, that we can get from this quiz state dot student quiz ID. Now what does it return? It returns task of quiz API response of question DTO. Quiz API response of question DTO, nullable question DTO is question. Now what we will do, we will first check, let's say response only, or result, we can name it whatever we want. So result dot is success. If it is not success, we'll say show error alert, and return from here, don't do anything. If that's not the case, it is success, then we'll check one more thing. We'll say if result dot this question detail, it can be null, right? In rare cases it can be null. So here we'll say if data result dot data is equals null, here also show error alert and just return. Okay, or maybe we can have both of these in this single check only. If the success is false or result dot data is null, then we'll do this. If that's not the case, we are good, we can serve this question. So now we need to show this question, so we need to have this here. Here we will have private question DTO underscore question, or we'll say current question actually. It can be null, it shouldn't be, but let's consider it as, or maybe let's not have it null, we'll have just new. Then in here we'll say underscore question equals this result, result dot data, which is going to be our question. Alright, now we have this question ready, and from this question only we'll get our options and all these things. Now we need to design this page. Save everything. First we need some quiz info. So here for this one we'll display the quiz name, category, number of questions, whatever information we have displayed on previous page, we'll display on this page as well, so that user knows. Although it should know, and it already knows, but let's have it again. Then for this timer we will create a separate component for timer, and that we'll do because whenever there is any change in the state, that component gets re-rendered. If we'll have timer here only, this timer should re-render on an interval of 1 second. So if we'll have timer here only, it will re-render this complete component, the quiz info, question, option, next button, all these things, but we don't want all these things to be re-rendered again and again every second. That's why we'll have this timer as a separate component. Okay, cool. So we'll work on timer later, but first let's have this quiz info. First thing we need to have here is div class. Hold on, this is a part of the main layout only, right? Layout, main layout. Here we have this h1 and hr. So this section outlet, let's have that same thing only. So we'll go to student home, we'll just copy the section content, we'll add that here, and we'll say just quiz, or we can name the quiz name, we can add this. So here we'll say quiz state dot quiz at the rate quiz state dot quiz dot name. Okay, so quiz name here will it be, or we can prepend it with quiz hyphen then this quiz name. After this we are going to have div class container, or let's have just row. Inside row we want to have quiz info. Do we really need to show quiz info? Maybe with this header only we can have number of questions here and the total time that we can show in timer. Yeah, let's do this. So in this quiz state dot quiz dot info we'll have this. After that we'll have this square bracket, we'll have this small tag, and here we can just say at the rate quiz info, not quiz info, quiz state dot quiz dot total questions, and here we'll say just questions like this, and we are good. Okay, then timer as a separate component, we'll create it, save it. Then we have question, so we need to display our question here. So we'll say div class just complete width. Here we'll have this in maybe h3 class. We don't need any margin here. Here we'll say at the rate underscore question underscore question dot text. Then we are going to have HR tag, and somehow the color scheme is messed up. That means this is not going to give us any IntelliSense or anything. We need to maybe try to unload and reload this project. Unload project, reload, and let's go to that page again, quiz page, and yeah, it is back. All right, now we have this question text. On this we can make it bold as well, FW bold, and maybe H4, not H3. It will be a very big piece of text. So after HR, now we are going to have our options. We want to display these options with maybe a radio button, not maybe, we should have that, we will have that radio button for the correct option. Okay, so for this what we can have, maybe let's first start with for each. We'll say var o in underscore question dot options. Then in here we are going to have div class. We'll have some class. In this first thing we'll have maybe display flex, justify we don't need, align items we don't need, and then we'll simply have display flex and a gap of 3 or maybe gap of 2, then padding of 3, then margin bottom of 3, then background white, so BG white. Okay, and then on this one let's say we'll have some option box class. We'll see if we want to add some additional CSS to this, but with this we are good. Inside this we will have two things. First we'll have a radio button, and then second thing we'll have our text, option text. So first let's have radio button. So we'll say input type radio class. I don't know what class we are going to have, but then we are going to have name, because we want all these radio buttons to be part of the same group. So here we'll have name, we can say RDO, which is radio, and we can have @ question dot id. Here we know question.id will always be there, so it will be RDO_1 something like this, so _111. So all these will be part of the same group. Okay, cool. And then we are going to have our text, the actual option text. So we'll have this label. In here we'll say o.text, option.text, and again something happened, o.text text. And then we need to map these two things. If we click on this label, then also this input should get checked. So for this, on this input type, we'll add one ID for this radio button. So here we can say RDO_ @o.id, option.id basically. And on this label, we'll say 4 and then same ID. So now these two are connected. Save everything. And after these options, again, I'm going to have one HR. Then I'm going to have this next button. So here I'm going to have a div plus, I'll say display flex, and justify content between. On the left side, I will have that exit test button. Justify content between, align items center. And on the left side, we are going to have button, type button, class btn danger. And here we'll say exit test. Then we'll copy this button. This time we'll say btn success, or maybe btn primary. And here we'll say save and next. So save everything. And after these buttons, we don't need anything. We are good with this. On this main row, we can have maybe MB3, margin bottom 3, so that we have some spacing from the bottom. Cool. Now when we are saying save and next, what should happen here? We should send the response, the current selected options response. So for this, we need to have some piece of state here which will tell us what is the currently selected option ID. Okay, so for this we'll have private int _ selected option ID, default value as 0, of course. Okay, then on this input, what we'll do, first we'll make it controlled input. So we'll say checked equals, it should be in checked state if selected option ID is equals to this option ID. So here we'll say if selected option ID equals o.id, then it should be in checked state. Okay, now on change, we'll have our logic on change. Here we'll say whenever we are saying on change, just go ahead and change the selected option ID to this o.id. Save it. And now we should be good. On exit test, we'll say @on click. Here we'll say exit test async or exit quiz async. And on the save and next, here we should have some other piece of state, so that this text should get changed when we are in between. Let's say we have 5 questions, so it should show save and next until we are on the last page. And when it is the last question, the 5th question, it should not show save and next. Instead, it should show submit. So for this, we need to keep track of all the questions, or at least number of questions. Okay, so here what we can do, we can simply have a private list of maybe question DTO underscore questions with an empty array. Okay, and then we will have a computed property here. We'll say private bool is last question, and here we will check if the this underscore questions, not question, this questions, list of questions dot length, its length, if we have 4, it should be 4, right? So it should be quiz state dot quiz dot total questions minus 1. If the length is equals this minus 1, that means this is the last question. Okay, so if it is the last question, we'll render some different button. So here we'll say if this is not the last question, then render this button what we have right now. If that's not the case, we'll render a different button. For that, we are going to copy this button, paste it here, and we'll change the class to btn success, and we'll change the text to submit quiz. Save it, and we should be good. The first one, we have on click exit quiz async. Here we'll say save and next question async, and on this submit quiz we'll have submit quiz async. Let's create these 3 methods, and then we'll see, we'll start this, and this is freaking out. So private async task, we have this method. Let's copy this 2 times, then submit quiz async, and the second method was save and next question async. Save it. Let's try to run it. We just want to see how this page looks. No, there is some error. List question DTO does not contain a definition for length because we are using list, so length should not be here. Let's use count. Start. And there is some error. Error says introducing foreign key constraint, student quiz ID, student quiz on table this may cause cycles or multiple cascade paths, specify on delete no action, or let's define this. I don't know if it will work or not, because if you remember in one of our previous projects there was also this issue, but even after setting this no action it was not able to get it. So what we had to do, we had to reverse all the migrations, then start afresh, just migrations. We didn't need to change anything in code, but for now let's see how it works. So it is saying student quiz questions. We'll go in API data quiz context. Here we have this entity as key. In here we will say let's have one more for this only. So model builder dot entity dot student quiz questions dot property s dot question id, not question id, s dot student quiz dot Oh my god. Entity has one student quiz dot with many. The current entries student quiz questions can be multiple here with on delete, and we'll say delete behavior dot no action. Save it, and I guess same thing we should do for question. Save it. Let's try to run it again. Still error. Both relationship between this and student quiz could use student quiz ID as the foreign key. What? System.invalid operation accept both relationships between student quiz question dot student quiz and student quiz, and between student quiz question and student quiz question. Something's not right. Do we have in question, did I set that list of, let's stop it and go to the student quiz. Let's copy the navigation property from here, this one. Go to the student quiz again, go to question, and in question also let's have this. Save it, start. I need to spend some time to read this error. I may be making it very fast, so I'm thinking maybe I know what the error is, but it's not. What is it? Let's set just API. Start the API only. System invalid operation exception both relationships between student quiz question dot question and question, and between student quiz questions and question dot student quiz questions could use question ID as the foreign key. To resolve this, configure the foreign key property explicitly in on model creating at least one of the relationships. So let's go to the quiz context, and here when we are saying has one this with many this, and with many also we can define student quiz questions. Here also we can define s dot student quiz questions. So from question to questions student quiz, no, here it shouldn't be questions, it should be in student quiz size, it should be student quiz. Oh, student quiz questions, yeah, student quiz questions, but in here also it should be that the name is same. Save, start. Maybe using this it will be able to figure out. Now on delete no action, or on update no action. Foreign key of student quizzes student quiz ID on table student quiz questions may cause cycles, but I already have added it, right? Delete behavior no action, delete behavior no action. Let's do this. After doing all these things, what we'll do, we'll simply revert the migrations. What was that command? Revert migration or remove migration? Remove migration. You don't need to do this remove migration doing all this, because when you'll first run this application, it will have the fresh migrations, it will not have that thing, so it will work without uh, using these remove migrations. Remove migration, we'll keep on removing the migrations until we get this has already been applied, so we are good. Now we'll add migration again. Let's say student quiz migrations. Now it should generate a new migration. So whatever migrations are already run on the database, after that it will have these migrations. All right. Now save it, and now let's try to run the API if it is able to run those migrations. And it looks like it worked this time. Okay. All right. Now we are good. So we'll again go back to the solution properties. We'll again set multiple startup projects. So we'll say API project start and web project start. Apply. Okay. And let's start. There is some error. Let's clean and close all the running console windows if we have console or browser window. Yes, let's start again. Okay, UI, API, home. There is some error. Let's see what is it. Console. It is saying API student quiz ID save response has parameter student quiz ID, but no method parameter matches this. So we have some error in our Refit client, Refit interface. So I student quiz save response, this one we have this student quiz ID. This needs to be a part of this. So int student quiz ID, save it, run it. API and UI, home, fetching categories, start quiz. Do you want to start? If we say okay, it went there, but the loader was behind our modal, right? So we should fix that as well. Our loader should be on top of modal. We'll do that, but right now we are in the quiz. We need to have the closing bracket for this. Then we have quiz info timer. This is the text. We'll remove this, and this is the question. Then we have these options, exit test and save and next. Cool, this screen is looking good. Okay. All right, now if you click on this, click on any one of these, so it works. Only one is checked at a time. Cool. So let's fix this thing. Then we'll have some spacing from top for this question, and then with this we are good. We will make these to be display blocks, because right now what is happening, if I click here, nothing is happening, but it should pick this yes here as well. Let's quickly go to the code, quiz.razor. We'll comment out this text. After that we'll come on this label, and here we'll add class display block, and then on this h1 we are going to have margin top of 3, m0, or let's remove this, and mt3, margin top 3, and margin bottom we don't need. HR will have its own, or let's say MB0, but HR will handle its own spacing and margin. So save it. Let's try to hot reload, and yeah, this closing square bracket as well. Close. Again save it and hot reload. It didn't come here. Let's stop it and start again. API, UI, home, start quiz. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, here also it is still not working. We need to find a way by which we can maybe do this, or maybe we can do that. We can simply have a click handler on this complete li, and then we can do this. Now I think we are good with this current setup. Now next thing we'll do, we'll work on this save and next button. After that we'll work on that timer, then we'll work on exit test. All right.